FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and saw the riots, no doubt, taking place in Baltimore. Police, their hands were tied, totally ineffectual, and that was intentional. Put yourself in that position. You're riding along your normal route home from work. Riot breaks out, social unrest, a disturbance. What are you going to do? How are you going to handle it? It's a hard choice to make, and if you haven't thought about it, you really should, because this type of thing could become more common. We hope it doesn't. We hope that our leaders are better prepared for it and that they want to make the tough decisions and that they're not going to embrace these social breakdowns and encourage more of them. But you have to wonder when you see situations like Baltimore where the mayor is actually calling upon these people to riot and setting aside riot zones, safety zones for the rioters. Well, we've got our friend on, George Matheis of Modern Combative Systems, to help us along. You know that he trains SWAT teams, trained law enforcement, and has extensive experience himself in handling these very situations. George, welcome back. We're really happy to have you on.
Hey, Kerry, how are you? Got to be back.
Hey, so, you saw people getting caught in the rioting, had no idea what was going on. I mean, you got to stay informed here, first of all. You can't have your ear glued to the radio or the TV. You're working, you're trying to make a living, but there must be some service you can get texts from to keep you abreast of these types of outbreaks, right?
Yeah, that's correct, Kerry. I don't really know how anybody could not know what was going on. Once everything started heating up the night of the riots, I was actually coming back from doing a firearm class in Indiana, and my wife had to go around Baltimore on 695 to come pick me up, and she was held up about an hour as everybody was fleeing the city. Social media, Twitter and Facebook and whatnot was keeping people pretty up to date. So the chances, if you were outside the city coming in or you were inside the city, just stumbling into something were kind of small. I mean, you really had to have your head in the sand for that to happen. And, of course, that did happen to some people.
So social media, great place to keep informed. I mean, you're using it for so many other tasks. I mean, trivial, mundane things. So at least stay aware. And if you know that there's things happening, police activity, stay away from it. I remember when the whole Ferguson verdict came out, near some not so great places in Florida, I immediately called up my girlfriend. I said, look, do not take your usual route home. You take the back route. You be very careful. You just don't know. It could spontaneous riots, throwing rocks at cars. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, that's right. When you really can't see on the news, or people don't realize, is I live about 30 miles north of Baltimore, just off I-83 in York County, Pennsylvania. And people joke that this is actually Baltimore North because so many people up here work in Baltimore and in D.C. There's a bunch of people up here that are still not going to work because their businesses in Baltimore told them it's still not safe to come down, regardless of whatever you see about the peace-loving granola on the news. These businesses are still playing. They're still staying closed. I mean, Baltimore Orioles have played a game playing an empty ballpark.
It's really, really upsetting that not just incompetence, but this is gross negligence that the mayor of a major city can just fan the flames of social breakdown and encourage this type of behavior.
I have to agree. The thing is I have to look at it like this. This thing was viewed all over the world on every news channel from, Fox News to Al Jazeera. And if people are looking, at the United States are looking at Baltimore and they hear the people involved in these riots, and what they keep saying is because they're oppressed by the police, and the police are only aging the government, and they just happen to be the thing that the average person is going to come in contact with. In any other country, if your issue is with the police and the government, they typically attack government buildings. But the funny thing about Baltimore is, and Ferguson and these other places is, they don't attack government buildings because they really don't want to push, a political ideology or change. What they want is free tennis shoes, appliances, and liquor.
Yeah, and we were talking before in the state of Maryland, it's virtually impossible for the average citizen to get a carry permit to be able to be in a position to protect yourself.
Oh, it's crazy. I mean, I'm a retired police officer. I actually attended the Baltimore City Academy when my academy time, and the only people in Maryland that have firearms are the police, and the only permit holders are those who carry large sums of money for their business, or you have documented threats against your life. And the documented threats against your life have to be validated by Maryland State Police, and the Firearms Licensing Division is the one who decides whether or not you have the right to protect yourself.
That just seems totally wrong. Being here in Florida, the debate isn't whether or not you should be able to carry, it's whether you should have open carry or not. I've got mixed feelings about that. There's pluses and minuses, but kind of when everybody's open carrying, you kind of get that armed camp feeling. I don't know. I don't know if it's good or not. I'm still kind of up in the air about it. But hey, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut, they've so restricted your right to defend yourself that you have to really wonder who's running the asylum these days.
Yeah, I'm not up in the air on the open carry thing. I'm 100% against it. I'm 100% pro Second Amendment, but I don't know any professional firearms instructor that would ever tell you that you should wear your gun exposed. That lets people 360 degrees around you see that you're armed. And I said, you show me an exposed firearm, I'll show you a firearm, that I can take. The idea is that it's concealed until you need it. There's no need to make other people uncomfortable or draw attention to yourself and have somebody, call the police, and the police have to take time when they could actually be doing something constructive with their time, and they have to at least stop, talk to you, and make sure that, you're permitted. I just don't think it's a good habit.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same thing. I don't think it's a good thing necessarily, but yeah, it just seems to me half the thing is the element of surprise when somebody is thinking about robbing you, not knowing whether or not you're armed or not. I think that's the main benefit of carrying, or having the right to carry. And when you're wearing open, but then there's people that say, well, it's a constitutional carry and all that. I don't know. It's never really resonated with me. I see the argument. I just think, hey, it's not a big deal to just conceal it. And I think that's the way it should be. But my personal opinion.
The guys, the people that I see open carrying, they're usually carrying long guns, trying to attract attention. Or I see a guy that's about 400 pounds wearing sweatpants with a $5 nylon holster carrying a $1,000 gun. I mean, that's just the case of the matter. I don't think it does anything for the pro-Second Amendment crowd. I don't think it gains us, any people that are in a neutral zone, and I just really don't see the benefit of it. If I lived in a town, or a state where everybody, open carry, then of course I would. But we still live in a day and age where all it does is attract attention to you. And the only three people that are going to get attention are going to be the bad guys, the sheep, and the police.
Yeah, you have a point there. I mean, in Arizona, it's really prevalent. Oklahoma, I think, they just passed it in Texas. And, there are people that it makes uptight. It's kind of like, hey, smoking, I don't have problems with people smoking, just don't do it in my face. It's kind of that type of thing. It's part of living in a free society. But hey, getting back to this, so really, because we're heading towards the summer months, that's when you're most prone to have these, have civil unrest. Route selection, really being aware of the potential hotspots. We've talked about that before. Really important, isn't it?
Yes, it is. You need to know the area, more than one way in and one way out. I mean, face it, there's people who live in developments that don't have more than one way in or out to, where they live in a house. much less where they work. Get on MapQuest, run a couple of different routes, and, make sure that you have some options. And the other thing is, it's nice about if you're in a situation or a city that you're not familiar with, it helps to have, a man on the ground, is what they call it, in the military, somebody who knows the lay of the terrain better than you do. I have friends that live just about in all 9 districts of Baltimore City that I can call and, find out what's up to date, what's going on. And they're going to give you better information you'll be able to come up with yourself because, again, they're familiar with the area.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you can, there's all these webcams, traffic cams all over the place. Go take a look at them before you leave to go home from work. It's a great way to get some info.
Well, anyway, anything that you can do to gather intelligence, the more you know, the better prepared you are.
Yeah, for sure. And then also avoid these places at late night that you think are potentially dangerous as well, because your odds of getting into a confrontation from light to dark go way up.
I mean, of course, it goes up, significantly. You have to weigh, your right to go out if you want to go to a bar and go have dinner, whatever, versus, your safety. Some places you want to stay away from, and you have to learn and trust your intuition. Some people don't want to be inconvenienced at all, but, you can either be inconvenienced or, have harm done to you in an area you're not familiar with.
Right. And then protecting members of your family, that's always a huge concern. So staying in contact with them, having a plan with the family. I mean, I know you've done that yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, it's a good idea that, you have a rally point that with your family that they know that if everybody gets separated and then everybody can work their way either home or, to another location. Everybody these days are tied to their cell phones. My wife ran into a situation the other day where she walked out of the house without her cell phone and she couldn't remember my daughter's telephone number. So it might be a good idea to take an index card, put it in your wallet, and write down those key numbers so you have them in case you don't have your phone.
Yeah, like who remembers a telephone number, George, in this day and age, right? Unless it's really, really easy. I think I kind of remember my kids because they've had them for more than a decade, but anyone else's numbers, forget it. Like if it's a number I've gotten in the past 6 months, I will never remember that phone number. There's just no way.
Right.
We're just not programmed to remember things anymore because the computer does it so much better than you can do it. So contingency planning, really important, and keeping that information in a place where you can readily ascertain it if it's needed. Always do that, and then figure out potential hotspots always, and be prepared. Right, always have a plan because if you're prepared, that's half the battle.
That's correct.
So you got any courses coming up, any trainings that we should know about?
I actually just got done with doing a class in Indiana. And recently I partnered with Ridge Firearms Training Center, and they're here in Lewisberry, Pennsylvania. They have a new range, a new facility, and I'm going to be doing all their less lethal and force-on-force and edge weapons training. Again, that's Ridge Firearms Training Center here in Lewisberry, Pennsylvania. But that's going to be my base of operations as I'm working on another DVD, my first book. So that's kind of what I'm doing these days, staying a little closer to the flagpole, safer here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can't blame you for that. Makes me want to stay close to home, avoid long travels, and just better that way. But yeah. Book's coming out. So what's the book going to be called? Got a title yet?
It's going to be called Spontaneous Attack Survival with an Arm's Reach. It's going to basically, it'll be the manual to our combatives class.
Oh, wow. Hey, I have a friend who's a personal safety expert. He's a world kickboxing champion. And he says with a cell phone, he can, and he was also in law enforcement. He said with a cell phone, he can disable any attacker who gets within a foot of him. So
I would have to agree with that.
He said the cell phone is just like a great weapon. It just cuts off their airways, and the person's out. You know, he has a thing.
Well, it's one of those things where you walk around, you have in your hand all the time. I do a lot of pen classes. I actually just did a Fortune 500, their executive protection team. I just did a pen class for because they want something they could fly with and travel with that was inconspicuous and gave them another force option. You get a high quality pen, and you can definitely do some damage.
Yeah, I believe it. Well, George, I know that a lot of you out there are going to want to contact George, get more information, definitely get his book. Best place to find you these days, George?
You can get me at moderncombativesystems.net, or if you want to just send me an email, send it to Mercop, MERCOP 27 @gmail.com.
And hey, you'll always find a link in the show notes to any interview we do on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. We've got an unbelievable webinar coming up on May 20th dealing with, we got some big names, can't give them out quite yet, but make sure you get on the mailing list, sign up, newsletter. By the way, make sure you hoard some cash now. The war on cash is alive and well. I told you about it over a year ago to the day. I wrote a newsletter about Operation Dirty Money. They're coming for your cash. Don't believe it. Just Google War on Cash and you'll see. Anyway, George, always a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much. Great luck with the book. I can't wait to see it when it comes out. I know it's going to be a real eye-opener, and we will talk with you again real soon.
I appreciate it, Kerry. Thanks so much, and stay safe.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.